Hey everyone, Alain Poupart here, editor, publisher, lead writer for SI Fan Nation, All Dolphins. This is the All Dolphins podcast. I am joined again by longtime Miami Dolphins columnist Omar Kelly, Poupart and Omar. And today we're going to be talking about the first wave or first quarter of the offseason, which is when usually the big free agency deals get done, as well as the owners' meetings that are taking place in Arizona this week. First, we're going to start with the first quarter of free agency, which, Omar, I know you're not a huge fan of from a Dolphins standpoint. By all means, please elaborate.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of what the Dolphins did because there are certain elements that want to portray this as they went all in on trying to make a Super Bowl contender. And when is the last time you see a lot of bottom tier minimum contract guys and signings, which is what they did, budget spending? I call it the Dollar Tree free agency trip. When do you see that being an all-in move? I think that I would argue to you that I'm not going to sit here and say that Jalen Ramsey isn't a great acquisition. I love the contract. I like the player. I would love to see him paired with Xavier Howard. It's going to create nightmares for opposing teams. That's one move. And all it does is really replace Byron Jones, who, you know, was an upper echelon cornerback that was a good compliment for Xavier Howard, allowed him to do what he does. Now you got two players with Xavier Howard's skill level. So yes, it should step up and elevate. Where's the safety upgrade? Where's the running back upgrade? Where's the offensive line upgrade? Where's the tight end upgrade? Hell, where's the competent quarterback who could lead your team to victories and possibly take you to the playoffs if, for say, something happens to Tua Tagovailoa? I don't see that. And what I hate is when people want to sit here and mix in the defensive coordinator's acquisition. Since when do we factor in a defensive coordinator signing as part of free agency? It's not. It's never been. So don't sit here and tell me that minimum contracts to Jake Bailey and Malik Reed and basically Deshaun Elliott and Eric Sober, these are minimum contracts. When are we going to sit here and say minimum and not to say that they're bad players, but they're Dollar Tree signings. No offense to those who shop at the Dollar Tree.
Yeah. Okay. Here's my rebuttal to that. Okay. I think the notion of Dolphins going all in is pretty much restricted. As you mentioned, it's restricted to the acquisition of Jalen Ramsey and tacking on another large salary for the next couple of seasons. And mind you, it's a good contract for the quality of the player. But now if you look at 2024 and 2025, I mean, I think next year they have like 150 million tied up into like 6 players or something. That's kind of definition of going all in. As far as the other part of it too, it's not like the Dolphins had unlimited resources in terms of cap space and the amount of money they want to spend it, because, well, that part of it is really never a major issue with Stephen Ross, who doesn't mind throwing out money. They didn't have like an unlimited amount of cap space. I think I went into this offseason, correct me if I'm wrong, that I said I could see like one big splash move and then a whole lot of depth
minimum level signings.
Okay,
which is what you kind of got.
But counterpoint number 2, as you wrote in a story for alldolphins.com when you addressed the defense where it was after this first wave, they picked up 3 starters. Deshaun Elliott, possible starters. David Long's going to start opposite Jerome Baker at inside linebacker
if he can stay healthy.
Well, but again, that's the thing. We could haggle with this with David Long, just like we could have last year with Teron Armstead, because everybody agreed guy's a fabulous player, but you're taking a major injury risk.
Who says David Long is a fabulous player?
No, I never said David Long. I referenced David Long is a very, very good coverage linebacker.
Okay.
Joining a defense that was severely lacking in that department. Okay. So that if he stays healthy, getting him 2 years, $11 million. If he stays healthy, knock on wood, that's a great signing.
Okay.
Deshaun Elliott is a depth signing. The guy could wind up being your starter opposite Javon Holland at safety, because it's going to be between him and Brandon Jones. Deshaun Elliott started a hell of a lot more games in the NFL than Brandon Jones has.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of them, I'm going to admit I've not studied Deshaun Elliott's game all that much. I've researched it and enough to be able to say that the metrics for his coverage were really, really poor. But I talked to somebody in Detroit who told me actually he was kind of a key guy in their secondary. Then again, the Lions secondary completely sucked last year. So how much that's worth, who knows?
Yeah. Detroit really made a concerted effort to re-sign him. Okay. That's always a major factor to me. You know, when we look at these free agent classes, how much does your own team say, oh man, we can't lose this guy? David Long, Eric Saubert, Dan Feeney, Braxton Berrios, all players that I don't have a problem with. I think Braxton Berrios might be their best signing of the offseason, in my personal opinion, because I think what he adds to this offense is a very missing element in terms of a guy who can identify a vacant zone, drop in it, and then go get you some rack. Half of this guy's career yards is rack. So I like that signing. I don't even object to Jake Bailey, another minimum guy, former Pro Bowler, but you're signing a guy with a back issue. I don't even have a problem with Dan Feeney. Here's my question to you, Poop.
Go ahead.
Tell me the areas that you addressed, and you said, don't have to worry about that right now.
Inside linebacker who can cover. That's clearly, and if we're going to factor in Jalen Ramsey, you address the cornerback to start opposite X, who's the lead guy.
Okay, that's fair. So you addressed 2 of maybe 5 concerns that you had, right?
Okay, correct? But here's the other thing, though. I'm going to counter your argument of like, well, if their previous team didn't want it, means they suck. How many guys whose previous team really wants to hang on to them actually get to the market? Usually, if you really want to hang on to them, they stay with their team. Their team finds. Yeah,
but sometimes players force their hand. Like sometimes age and injury history and sort of changing of scheme fits and changing of the GM. Sometimes that forces hand, and that did play a factor with David Long. The 49ers. Run by Rand Carthon. He wanted to sign a linebacker from the 49ers. And I'm sorry, the Titans ran by Rand Carthon. He wanted to sign a linebacker from the 49ers. David Long, even though his head coach took a shot at him from a durability standpoint, they said, we're moving on. But even when you look at guys like Malik Reed, yes, he's thrived under Vic Fangio. It's just a guy. Jake Bailey, potential Pro Bowler, back injury, that never goes away. Let's say, hope he has a resurgent year, but it's a 1-year minimum deal. Let's not act like
he's also a punter. That's
yeah.
And especially since the NFL is basically trying to do away with special teams, which we can touch on a little bit later. I'm not going to spend 3 seconds on the punter.
Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, all players that I like, I'm intrigued with, but how much did they help you upgrade the 31st least productive rushing attack in the NFL?
By what metric? By rushing
yards per games.
Because they didn't run the ball. I mean, it was okay. And that's the point I made all along is like, to me, it's unfair to label those guys. I mean, are any of those
average is pretty impressive?
Sorry?
Their average is pretty impressive.
Correct. And they're not, I mean, the Dolphins don't want to be a run-centric team, which they shouldn't be with what they have on offense. So I don't think, and again, I get that Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook and, the big name and all that, and that's all great. But I don't think it's fair to knock Mostert, Wilson, Savon Ahmed, because based on what they were asked to do, they actually did a pretty good job.
Okay. So hold on. Let me make this point to you. So if they have such high, impressive averages and everybody likes Jeff Wilson and thought he was super talented, and I'm not arguing against this. I like Jeff Wilson. I think he adds an element. I know they're big fans of him with the 49ers. He had a breakout season. You can say the same thing with Mostert, who I thought had a very good year last year. But $2.5 million to Mostert, Jeff Wilson, $2.75 million with 255 in per game roster bonuses. Those are throwaway deals. So nobody in the NFL was like, oh man, we got to go get this guy. I mean, and it probably got them to those levels of deals, but that's not really that impressive.
if you're judging it by the deals they got, or you could say the Dolphins got great bargains and guys who really wanted to come back.
They made some great spending at the Dollar Tree. They did they racked up on those $1.25 bargains at the Dollar Tree. And I shop at the Dollar Tree every year.
No, I do too. We do too. But you
can get a lot of good cleaning products for $1.25.
Absolutely, yeah. Here's the flip side though. Would we rather have that than what happened in 2020 when the Dolphins had all this cap space and they threw out, I mean, they gave Shaq Lawson the
irresponsible deals.
Okay,
that's fair. But my question to you, and I hear where you're coming from. I think you make a very valid argument. I'm not saying I would prefer that over this. And you made the argument earlier in the conversation that, oh, the Dolphins were cap strapped. We knew they were only going to have the money to spend or make on one move. And I like the move, but let's not pretend like Steve Ross didn't write big fat checks that got you from $17 million over the cap to $30 million over the cap.
Oh, absolutely correct.
In the stroke of 1 week. My argument to you is I could have spent that $30 million better to improve your team. And it's you know, and I am not objecting to the Dan Feeney's of the world, to the Mike Whites of the world. Here's an argument that I'm making. I like Mike White. He has been on my man crush list, which means this is a draft prospect that I vouch for. Now, I vouch for him as a late round guy who's going to be a backup for 8 years in the league. That's where I saw him, a 5th round pick who's going to, you know, have a career that's respectable. But I will make the argument to you that if Tua goes down in week 5, your season's done. And I'm not saying that Teddy Bridgewater gives you a better chance, but if he
stays healthy, obviously,
if he stays healthy, he's won games in the league. Now I'm not disrespecting Mike White, even though it does sound like I'm disrespecting Mike White. But where's the veteran leadership in the quarterback room? I'm sorry, and I love Tua, but I'm not at the point where I could say that Tua doesn't need a veteran leader in his ear. Tua's played more than Mike White. Tua's got 3 times the level of competency, experience, understanding, know-how that Mike. And I'm not saying Mike White is not a genius or a savant, because I really do respect his knowledge of the game and understanding of this offense. But I'm not listening to Mike White. Like, if I'm Tua, and I think that presence was important for Tua.
No, correct. And I've said all along, my 2 points is I absolutely hate, despise, loathe, whatever word you want to use, this notion that Tua goes down, the Dolphins are done. I completely hate it, because to me, this offense is creativity, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, Tua getting the ball to them. And it's an offense that should work with a lot of different quarterbacks. I'm not sold on whether Mike White's the guy who can make it work. And maybe this is where I'll be proven wrong. I've seen Mike White play. He's had some really, really good games. He had a crappy offensive line in front of him with the Jets last year. But there are also a lot of times when I'm looking back there and it's like, damn, that's unimpressed. I want to be impressed and I'm not being impressed.
He's an accuracy and a timing kind of quarterback, which means he fits right in with Tua. I mean, that's what they want. And I think he can have a very impressive career here. But I'm sorry, you signed a quarterback for $4.5 million. It's really a 1-year deal. And 3.5 in 2024. That's a Dollar Tree quarterback.
Omar, I think I did a little Freudian slip here. There are also incentives that could bring up the contract. Well, because then Mike White's probably signing it like that.
He knows Tua's durability issues, knows Tua's concussion history.
And this is one of those. Good. This is one of those where, playing nice, I'm going to bow to the Dolphins' expertise that they know more than I do about Mike White's capability of running this offense. From where I sit, I was massively underwhelmed with that signing personally. And the other issue also I have, if I look at free agency, and mind you, when I'm countering back with your assessment of free agency, it's not like I'm going like, they really kicked ass. No, I'm like, but I like the David Long signing again if he stays healthy. obviously Jalen Ramsey. My only thing is, as they sit right now, they're not as good on offense as they were last year. And it's not even close. We can say what we want about Mike Gesicki, but he's gone. Trent Sherfield, who actually might have benefited from the scheme last year, and maybe he's not that great a player, but still he had a productive season. He's gone. And that means now who becomes the third wide receiver option? Cedric Wilson, who did nothing. And we're talking about bad contracts. He's got
that was a horrible
12
contract.
catches.
That's a horrible contract. Horrible signing.
Well, he needs to step up.
We'll see. We'll see. He has a size element. Him and Eric Uzukama, they've got a size element that's a very important addition that you need with Waddle, and to complement Waddle and Tyreek to make adjustments for Gesicki's departure. But I will make the argument that I love three different receivers on the field who can all seamlessly go into the slot. That's just some scary crap. Three guys who can give you run after catch yards, which is where Berrios is. We already know Berrios is going to be on the active game day roster because he's going to be the punt returner. So now I'm looking at it like Cedric Wilson and Eric Uzukama, they're battling for that fourth spot. And
don't forget River Craycraft.
Yeah. Well, I think
there's an element of trust there. Here's the thing: there's an element of trust with River Craycraft that was there also with Trent Sherfield, and I don't know if it's a San Francisco connection or what. That was never. I mean, I'm sorry, but Eric Uzukama being like active for one game the entire year and getting passed over by Braylon Sanders from the practice squad, by Rivers Craycraft from the practice squad. I mean, if the dude hadn't been a fourth-round pick, he'd have gotten cut.
No, we saw enough of him in training camp to say that he had some talent.
In the preseason.
He had some talent. He had some potential. I think maybe that has more to do with special teams and the contributions there. Because remember, no,
because you look at the game books. Like I look at the game books and the snap counts, and then some guys who played ahead of him, Braylon Sanders, didn't play special teams that one game. He wasn't, so it had nothing to do with special teams.
Yeah, Braylon has speed though, and you paid closer attention to it than I did. So
yeah, and I did, and then to me it screamed like me alarm that I don't want to say that he's on the way to bust them, but
no, don't give up on. I've made that mistake. I mean, that rookie season is overwhelming. That transition, the money, the girls coming at you. Oh, let me figure out my life. Oh, my mom needs money. Family members, cousins coming at me. So, I mean, listen, we don't know what that young man was going through. Let me ask you this question. Take Jalen Ramsey off the table, because we all said it's a phenomenal deal for the trade picks that you gave up, for the adjusted salaries, for how you're going to help, and I will argue to people, and nobody will like this, but I think Xavier Howard is superior cornerback to Jalen Ramsey. They play two different styles. Xavier gets the ball. Jalen,
when he's right. Yeah, I agree.
Look at the turnovers. Look at the turnover differential, and people could say, "Oh, people weren't throwing at Jalen Ramsey." Well, they threw at him last year, and Xavier shadows and Jalen shadows, but Xavier gets the ball. Now, you could say whatever you want. Xavier can play press too. Imagine Xavier in a world where he doesn't have to shadow the best cornerback, and he could just go into, based on the scheme, this is the area that this quarterback prefers on this down and distance in this scheme. And how many balls do you think he can pull down?
Oh, no, I completely agree with you. And he wasn't right last year physically the whole year. And when he's right, I mean, that dude is good.
Yes, he's very good. Who is your best signing in free agency? Who are you giving the crown to outside of Jalen Ramsey? We took that off the table.
Well, there's only one to me that really sticks out, and again, it's going to come with the caveat as if he stays healthy, and that's David Long. I know you have the man crush on Braxton Berrios, but again, as I'm going to mention for the third time, the NFL is kind of like basically legislating all punts out of the league. So how many punt returns is he actually going to have? I don't know how big of an impact he can make there. And as a receiver, yeah, he's going to catch some passes, but I don't know it's going to be that extensive. Yeah. And David Long's going to be a big factor again if he can stay healthy. And
He's a 1,000 snap player.
And the problem with him is the issues were like, what's the word, like soft tissue injuries,
Hamstrings.
and
Quads.
if Dolphin fans are going to rag on Devontae Parker like they did for the entirety of his career here, how long is it going to be before, if he misses practice because of a hamstring injury or what? Not that it matters in the grand scheme of things, but to be fair, yeah, that's the same thing that kind of kept Parker from reaching his full potential here.
You know, I looked at his film, and you know who he reminds me of? This is going to be a name that's going to be a flashback from the past. Jelani Jenkins. You remember him?
Yeah, but I think he's, University of Florida 4th-round pick. Yeah, I remember Jelani. Good guy. But I think he's clearly a better athlete than Jelani was.
Where's the proof that he's clearly a better
athlete? I think
athlete?
he's my eyes.
Okay, Jelani wasn't bad. Jelani had 100 tackle season. This guy has never had 100 tackle season.
Jelani was okay. I don't see the explosiveness in his game with the way I see with this guy. I mean, like I said, and the thing is, if had he played for a team other than Mike Vrabel, who's old school, tough like that, don't give me shit about hamstring injuries. Maybe the Titans, maybe that team re-signs him. It was.
Here's the one thing that I will say about David Long, and it's a solid signing. It's an okay signing. I think it's a buddy deal. Because if you look at who his agent is, there's a lot of connections there. Dolphins need
enlighten me. Who is his agent?
David Maggetti.
Okay.
So, okay, this is a nice signing, solid. It's a stopgap deal that'll allow you to test it, see whether maybe Channing Tindall can take that next step, which I don't know, because I don't know.
I don't know either, and also because I don't know.
Yeah, that guy got to contribute on special teams. So, but he was protected by Tennessee, which had one of the best defensive lines in the NFL, and Zach Thomas was also protected by his defensive linemen in Bowen and Gardner. Okay, when you don't have that protection, and let's not pretend like the Dolphins have Tennessee's defensive line, because let's not do that. How will you play?
They don't have Jeffrey Simmons, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's on the market though. If you want him, you potentially get him.
Yeah, not gonna that would be going all in. The Dolphins
exactly, or go get the running back from Tennessee. That'll be going in. I'm dying to see what Tennessee does, because they supposedly Ryan Tannehill's on the market, Derrick Henry's on the market, their safety's on the market. Like, they're just cleaning house. And hey, that's you would think that in that division you don't take that approch, but looks like
and Ryan Tannehill being on the market, that's basically please somebody take his salary away from us. That's got nothing. It's got nothing to do with like.
I think they should ride. I think they should ride it out with Ryan Tannehill one more season. I mean, you act like they've got options right now. Like, I mean, unless they're going to go sign Lamar Jackson, which I would do in a heartbeat. And I would do it after. Honestly, if I was interested in signing Lamar Jackson, I would do it after the draft and say, okay, you get 2 of my future first-round picks with Lamar Jackson as my starting quarterback. That's the approach that I would take.
No, and that becomes it. And if I'm Tennessee, I do that. Keep Derrick Henry, and have fun dealing with my running game with those 2 guys.
Absolutely. See, we're on the same page there.
That becomes a major issue. Yeah, but Jeffrey Simmons would be like. Okay, moving on to the owners' meetings. And anything, I mean, we mentioned like some of the rules changes that they might be talking about, because we mentioned the punting game, touchbacks moving to the 25-yard line. The idea supposedly is, and then Troy Vincent, the former Dolphin cornerback, who was a great player, by the way, is talking about more penalties occur on punt returns, and then more injuries occur on punt returns. So they're kind of very subtly trying to get rid of it. To where and they've kind of done that already with the kickoff returns, and it used to be, and I get it from a safety standpoint, but as a fan, you taking away the kickoff return was like really a cool play, and I'm not a huge fan of it. Again, purely from a selfish fan standpoint. Where do you stand on this?
I don't like that they're trying to eliminate special teams' impact on the game and blaming it on injuries, because the NFL really hasn't cared about player injuries for 2 decades. If you did care about player injuries, you would have eliminated cut blocks eons ago.
Mhm.
But let's pretend like this is about player injuries. But they're a very self-serving league, and they do things for money, and special teams is an exciting element of the game. Why would they take it out? Okay, pretend like you care about injuries.
Yeah, I will tell you one change that they're talking about, or the Philadelphia proposal, that they're back at it again. It's like every year after year they're going to bring it up, and I personally love this one. Substituting the onside kick one time in the fourth quarter when you're trailing with, I believe it's 4th and 20, you convert, you get the ball, as opposed to an onside kick. And to me, the percentage of onside kicks when you know it's coming, the success percentage is so insanely low that, anything to get rid of it as a substitute, give me the 4th and 20. And it's like, you convert a 4th and 20. Yeah, you deserve to hang on to the ball.
I actually like that. Anything that's going to add an element of excitement. I mean, how much excitement did we have for an onside kick? We only got excited when the team got the ball. So I'm all favor for it. I'm good. If you're going to add more excitement to the game, I'm good. If you're not going to add more excitement to the game, you're just going to take it away. Not into it. That's my personal.
Correct. And I think the Dolphins, I looked at it last year. I think they were involved in like 3 games where that would have come into play. And all 3 of them is they were the ones trying to do the onside kick and the other team recovered. I know Minnesota was one of them. The Chargers was one of them. I think I may be forgetting, or that may have been it or something like that. And it's like, you go for an onside kick, the other team knows it's coming. Your chances of success, I think, is down to 3%. It's like basically game's over, I think it would make it a lot more exciting personally. One thing that's not going to get voted on, and I don't know, I'm curious, but why? Maybe I like it just because of the nickname they give it, the Tush push. That play where Jalen Hurts, quarterback sneaks, and he's got 2 guys pushing him in the back. I personally, first of all, that they allow it certainly doesn't help the Dolphins in the least, because they don't have the quarterback with the size to be able to do that. And I know Jalen Hurts isn't big, but he also bench presses, from what I'm told, like 600 pounds. So he's like really.
You don't know what Tua bench presses.
Who?
We're gonna find that out. I said you don't know what Tua bench presses.
I'm gonna guess that's not 600, but that's just a wild guess.
But keep in mind, he also made Jalen Hurts transfer.
That is true. But having said that, I mean, again, from a fan viewing standpoint, which I mentioned a lot on Twitter when I rail against instant replay, which could not disappear quickly enough, but that's a different topic. I'm like watching a game and watch the Eagles do that. I mean, Jesus, this ain't rugby. I mean, this ain't Australian rules football. Seriously, you quarterback sneak all you want. Don't have the guys push you in the back.
I like it.
Of course you would.
Anything that's going to add excitement, you can convert, you can score a touchdown. I'm good. Like,
that's exciting to you, to watch a quarterback sneak with 2 guys pushing him in the back.
4th and 1. I want to see him get it, and I want to give him a stacked deck.
But get it a more proper way, or the running back is down the field and he stood up. All of a sudden, he's got 3 offensive linemen coming in the back of him and pushing him downfield. And if you notice on those plays,
love it.
But they'll give the running back the extra 3 yards. But God forbid he fumbled, and they'll say, "Well, no, forward progress had been stopped."
You'd have to prove that to me. Yeah, but I like the push. I'm a big proponent for the push. Supporter of it.
You would.
Yeah. Anything that gets 300 pounders more involved, I'm all for it.
Okay. Yeah, I bet you were all over that Robert Hunt touchdown on a.
Oh, absolutely, no question about it. No,
even though it was a penalty. Even though it was a penalty.
Yes, love it.
And I'm like grumpy old guy saying, everybody stop making a big deal about this. It's a penalty. I know it's cool to watch the big guy rumble, but
still one of my favorite plays that proves that Robert Hunt can play right tackle, and I'll never let that go.
Oh, well, I don't know if that to me, that's what proves it. It's when he has been at right tackle, he's done a good job, and I don't know. And in fact, we're close to running out of time, but let's address that since you mentioned it. I know you're not happy with what's going on with the offensive line, because right now they basically added Dan Feeney. There's all
And
this
status quo.
sorry?
Dan Feeney replaced Michael Dieter. That's it. That's all you did.
Correct. And maybe they give him, well, according to his words on the Zoom last week, he said they told him he'd get a legitimate shot.
Yeah, you're going to tell anybody they're going to get it. Robert Jones is going to get a legitimate shot. I mean, with that offensive line, everybody should get a legitimate shot.
No,
you want to come play offensive line for the Miami Dolphins? Sign here. I mean, what I do like and do respect about what they're doing is they're not putting a big push and emphasis on signing guys to big money deals. And I wouldn't either. There's so many different guys that are going to be out there. I was looking at it just this morning, and Cameron Irving is there. Jesse Davis, who I know is
you're just like, oh man, you got people going with it. And
I know,
I like Jesse.
Isaiah Wynn is there. Billy Turner is there. That's the name who I was thinking about. I'm good with Billy Turner being an option.
Yep.
I'm good with they could bring Shell back, and I'd be good with that as well. Cameron Fleming, I don't think you have to go and sign somebody to a big money contract to address this issue. And in fact, you really have 2 picks that are priority picks in this draft, because the rest are just filler, practice squad, guys who might or might not make your 53-man roster. To me, tight end and offensive line are probably the picks that I would use to improve my team with those 2 second and third round picks. Tight end and offensive line, I'm good.
But to me, if you sign a Brandon Shell, I've heard George Fant mention as a possibility, or a Billy Turner to compete at right tackle. I think you can get away with that at right tackle. And then Eichenberg, Feeney, Robert Jones competing at left guard, because I don't think you're going to get a guy in the second round, or it's rare. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's rare that you're going to get a guy in the second round who's going to come in and be better than that, unless you luck out and get like a Creed Humphrey, for example, like the Chiefs got, to play center, and then maybe you get that kind of guy, move Connor Williams back to guard.
You should be able to get a good offensive lineman in the second round. You should.
But good offensive lineman to be able to come in right away and make an impact.
You should get Robert Hunt. You should be able to get a Robert Hunt.
Was Robert Hunt as a rookie what Robert Hunt is right now?
No, but Robert Hunt as a rookie could help this offensive line drastically. I'm not disagreeing with you. Austin Jackson, no. Robert Hunt, yes. Even though Austin Jackson probably had a better rookie season than Robert Hunt. I think. Yeah, before he got hurt, he played pretty well. Before he got hurt with the knee injury and then came back and played like booty cheeks. He was, and he never rebounded from that. I think that this offseason, and I'm interested to hear what they say about Austin Jackson in the owners meeting, because that's clearly, this is an indictment. This offseason has been an indictment of an endorsement, not an indictment, an endorsement of Robert Hunt, of Austin Jackson.
Correct. Well, it was last year too. And if you remember, they kept Mike McDaniel, Frank Smith, Matt Applebaum, who's now back in BC, kept talking him up, both Austin Jackson, how much they liked the way he looked at practice at right tackle. And they kept talking up Liam Eichenberg, talking about how he's playing his best football of the year before he got hurt against, was it Pittsburgh or against Detroit last year, which kind of basically derailed his season. Obviously, coaches, this is also a staff that's very big on pumping guys
investing in your draft pick.
Yes. Well, no, pumping guys up publicly. That's what I'm talking about. There are certain coaches who Flo was always very, very careful not to be too positive. Well, this staff is certainly not.
Which is how the nickname Superstar became for Nick Needham. Yes.
Our friend Nick Needham. You did like that signing though, right? Nick Needham bringing.
Yeah, I love them bringing back Nick Needham. I'm a Nick Needham fan, so yeah. And Haskins, Rivercraft, Craycraft, Van Ginkel, Duke Riley, Justin Bethel.
Yeah, I love the Van Ginkel re-signing. To me, he's always, his production per playing time to me is pretty damn good. I haven't done the metrics. I have a lot of time on my hands sometimes, and I'm a sicko who does a lot of research. That's too much for me. But my eyeballs tell me
Van Ginkel
he
makes
makes a
plays.
lot happen for his playing time. They got him back. 1 year deal, and he adds depth to that edge position with Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, and probably one other guy to come.
Malik Reed.
Oh, Malik Reed, sorry.
16 sacks.
Yeah, that was a while back. I was told this season in Pittsburgh last year, they were like,
nah.
So as one of
undersized, try hard guy.
Correct.
I like.
Correct. I was told very high character as a football player. Meh. So, I mean, I'm a good character guy, and I can't play football, especially not at my age. Anyway, so